All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live with another Nomadic Coal live stream for your guys' education and or entertainment. Be sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, share, and of course subscribe for more epic, awesome, cool, funny, and interesting content just like this one right here, right now on the Nomadic Coal YouTube channel. I am your host, Nomadic Cole. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm wearing a little bit of a different shirt today, guys. I don't know if you can tell. This is the Young Americans for Liberty merch t-shirt. Check this out behind here. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Hopefully you can. Boom. That is a fucking badass logo on the back of my shirt. Right there for you guys. So if you guys haven't, I am partnering with Young Americans for Liberty. So I'd highly encourage you sign up with them and join the ranks and join the fight for liberty here in America. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have the news for today. It is the 30th episode of Nomadic News. It has been a great run doing these live stream videos with you guys, and I really do hope that I can get in a few more live streams as well. But I do have an important announcement to make, and that announcement is that this may very well be the last Nomadic News episode I plan to do. So it's just me, no co-host, no nothing. But we're going to go over some very important news today, because, a lot of stuff has happened that is really fascinating to watch and very interesting in the news. So we'll go over it, shall we? The first thing that I want to go over today first is that, we'll do the weather report first. So, first of all, today it has been pretty bipolar weather, actually. It has been like cloudy and rainy early in the morning, kind of cold. And then after that, it's gotten very hot and sweaty. So I have a fan on back here. So don't mind any background noise from the fan next to camera, because otherwise I would be so sweaty that there would be sweat stains on my armpits and on my back, and I'd get swamp ass. And like, nobody wants that to happen. You know what I mean? Nobody wants that to happen. But yeah, it's been very interesting weather lately. We were supposed to have a hurricane come in, but it actually missed the island chain by like 500 miles. So it drifted off like north, and it's basically sucked out like all the moisture from the air. So the last few days have just been humid and hot and muggy. It's been like peak summer weather. Great for if you want to go to the beach, sure, but there's been like almost no trade winds. And then today we got like some trade winds a little bit coming back in, but it's still very hot. It's still very hot and muggy. So yeah, I mean, that's basically how it's been. It's been like kind of crazy like that, just going off and on, back and forth. We also have some news as well on the volcano as well. Just recently, the volcano hit its 52nd, so we passed the 50 eruption mark. It hit its 52nd eruption since they started counting it in this recent sort of, I guess, seismic and geological event, where all these giant fountains are coming out of the caldera crater, and then it'll last a few hours, these fountains of lava coming out of the ground, and then after that it kind of calms down, and then it's calm for like a few days. It's like calm for like a week or two sometimes, and then after that the pressure starts to build up, all the gases start coming through, and then after that it erupts and creates a giant fountain of lava. It's really cool to watch, and it's really no threat to anybody. Although we have had a few showers of like the tephra and all the smog and the the Vog just like kind of dusting everybody, which is very annoying, but it is what it is at this point. I mean, you live on an island with an active volcano. You kind of just it just kind of goes along with the territory. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's basically the volcano news for today and the weather report. Now we'll move on to football. NFL preseason starts up next week. And guys, we've got a lot of interesting young talent going forward. I think this is going to be a really interesting season. We see you got the LA Rams. They just recently got Myles Garrett. They might even be getting Aaron Donald back if he makes it through his little training session before the season begins. So we'll have to keep eyes on that one. That's definitely going to be interesting. AJ Brown from the Eagles got traded to the Patriots. So, yeah, AJ Brown left the Eagles. He's no longer on the Eagles, and he's on the Patriots now. So now the Eagles not looking as good as they once did. Although they do still have a monster O-line, they do still have Saquon Barkley, and they do have some guys on defense like Blankenship and what's that other guy's name? Cooper DeJean. Yeah, they still have Cooper DeJean as well. Definitely some things to look out for there. And of course, we can also talk about my Dallas Cowboys, which have recently got Christian Parker as the defensive coordinator, a former Eagles defensive coordinator. Now we got Christian Parker, and he's a young guy, and he's coming in with a new scheme, and he's decided to go like 3-4 instead of 4-3 for the defensive scheme. So it's very interesting. And we've actually surprisingly got some dogs. We've got Quinnen Williams, we got Kenny Clark, we got Rashawn Gary. We might even be getting Von Miller. There's a rumor that Von Miller wants to come to the Dallas Cowboys, so we could get him hypothetically. We got Maurice Leofau. He's very, very good, very talented player. We recently got Caleb Downs. We still, of course, have Donovan Ezraku on defense as well. So that's going to look very good as well. We have Deron Bland. Of course, he's very talented defensive back. We got Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker and a bunch of these other guys on defense. Oh, and of course you can't forget DeMarvion Overshown. Yeah, he's a beast, and I hope he comes back and he's healthy this year. And then you can't forget about the offense. I mean, the offensive line has been rebuilt. Dak Prescott, I mean, he still is competing to be one of the better QBs in the league. He recently has become the number 6 quarterback in the league, according to the Talking Heads projections. So very interesting there. And of course, we also got Javonte Williams at running back, who played very well last year. So hopefully expect him to have another good year this year. We also have Jake Ferguson at tight end. We brought back George Pickens as our wide receiver number 1. We got CeeDee Lamb still on the team. And of course, that wide receiver 3 spot, it's going to be a toss-up between whether or not it's going to be Kavontae Turpin, who's kind of more of a gadget guy, and he plays a lot of special teams because he's a very fast, speedy runner. It could also be Jonathan Mingo. That is another guy that they're also looking at. So we'll have to see which one of those guys it's going to be, because Other than that, the wide receivers 3 spot is kind of up in the air, and that's okay for it to be up in the air because it can really be a hybrid position, to be honest. Like, you can play around with things, you got time. It's still going to be preseason, so we still got to figure everything out first and foremost. But I am definitely excited about this season. Hopefully, the Dallas Cowboys can get a playoffs run in the NFL. That would be very exciting, and that would make me very happy. But of course, the team's got to stay healthy. Team's got to stay healthy. That's the main thing to look out for, because the last couple of years we've been kind of injury prone for whatever reason. It's just not been the best. So we got to stay healthy, keep everybody in shape, and push through the season. Should be very interesting, very exciting. So yeah, definitely check out preseason football next week to see what all the new rookie talent has to prove and show themselves to the rest of the NFL and put themselves on the map. All right, now that that is over, now that that's done, um, I also want to give a little bit of unfortunate news. Um, Apparently, Rosie the Riveter, the famous World War II mascot, you know, with the woman that goes like, "We can do it," you know, with the muscles. Apparently, she died like today. So, rest in peace, Rosie the Riveter. Um, it's very, very unfortunate to hear about that. Uh, she will be in our thoughts and prayers tonight. Yeah, very unfortunate news. So, everybody, press F in the chat. Press F in the chat to pay respects to Rosie the Riveter, because yeah, it's just very unfortunate to see a hero, a real legend, uh, pass away. All right, now that that's all out of the way, now we can go into our political section of this live stream podcast here. Today, we will get into the politics portion of this. So, here it goes. So, the big news to start off today, the big news about the podcast that has happened. The big news, not about the podcast, I'm sorry. The big news about what has happened recently in politics is that just the other day, Wednesday, we had the second hearings from the Congress, um, where they did a hearing on Anthony Fauci, and all what happened during the coronavirus times. So, if you don't remember Anthony Fauci, he was kind of like the head of the CDC at the time. He was kind of made the face of the whole coronavirus times pandemic, and he was really all adamant about pushing the jab. He was adamant about wearing masks and double masking and social distancing and locking down everything. He is adamant about all this stuff, um, you know, censoring people who disagreed with him. He was adamant about that. And now there are new documents that have been released. And yes, they've been building up for a little while. But there are new documents that have been released, that prove that Anthony Fauci was actually lying the entire time. Okay? He was lying about all that stuff that happened during the coronavirus days. He was telling a big lie, and he was misleading the public. He was not being a good steward of information. He was covering things up. He was lying to Congress, and he was genuinely being a scumbag. And he was also taking lots of money. He took over $1 million of money in cash prizes from the pharmaceutical industrial complex industry. And he also was the one who funded the gain of function research, which actually gave us the coronavirus at the time. Yeah, this is all stuff that a long time ago on YouTube you really couldn't talk about. I remember when I started talking about this on YouTube, they censored me for daring to push back against the whole narrative and the whole agenda. I remember when I was in college, I had a friend, right? I had a friend. We were sitting in like a pool room, and we were playing pool, and we were eating food. We had food from the dining hall, and we were playing pool, and we were just chatting it up. And he takes his mask off to eat the food, and he's just like kind of hanging around, chatting it up with friends. And then one of the RAs, the resident advisors or resident administrators, one of the RAs calls the fucking cops on this dude, and the cops and the campus security come and they arrest the guy. They put him in handcuffs and escort him off the campus for not wearing a stinking mask, because he took off his mask to eat some food, and then he kind of walked around, was like chatting stories and like playing, shooting pool and hanging out and having a good time. And they arrested him. They put him under arrest. They put him in handcuffs and then escorted him off the campus, even though he was a student there of the campus. So that was insane. So they did all this type of stuff, and they had to have you have like a card to go into like fucking Burger King or go to the gym. You had to get like a card that said I'm vaccinated, or I don't have the virus and all that stuff, right? You had to have a special card in order for you to get into certain places. And it kind of was a violation, because it's like, these people don't need to know my medical history. It's kind of a violation of medical autonomy, don't you think? If you ask me, Skip, it's a violation of medical autonomy. He said these people don't need to know my medical history. It's just a cashier at the freaking Burger King, or it's just a lady who checks you into the gym. You don't need a card to say, hey, look, I got the pokey, right? You don't need that. You don't need that. But no, they had to do that. And it was all authoritarian, and I predicted it a long time ago. So to all the people who doubted me, fuck you. I was right. Once again, I was right about this whole thing, because I knew they were lying from a long time ago. From a long time ago. The Biden DOJ, his FBI, was the one who actually confirmed the lab leak, by the way. In 2023, they confirmed the lab leak theory. And we got more documents, and more documents to pile on to that. And what happened, what culminated on Wednesday, was there was a hearing in front of the Congress where Dr. Rand Paul, Senator Ron Johnson, Senator Josh Hawley, and a couple others got up there in front of the Senate and absolutely grilled Anthony Fauci. Now, Anthony Fauci has already been pardoned by Joe Biden, because they knew about it. They knew about it in 2023 that he was lying, and Joe Biden knew that he needed to get a pardon. So they already knew that Anthony Fauci was in trouble. So they gave him a sweeping pardon. And it's debated on whether or not it was an auto pen or whether or not it was Joe Biden. You have to have like documents and stuff to do that. I get that. But still, try to figure out if it was the auto pen, right? So he got a pardon, which basically covered a huge sweeping amount of things. So when in 2024, when they grilled him, and Rand Paul absolutely destroyed him and made him admit to everything that it was all a lie. Made him admit that the social distancing rule was completely arbitrary. Made him admit that double masking was a stupid idea in the first place. Made him admit to funding gain of function research, all that and whatnot. He made him admit to all of that. And they couldn't get him because of the pardon, because Joe Biden at the last minute, in the final days of the administration, of his administration, Joe Biden went and gave him a huge pardon. And so they couldn't hit him for contempt of Congress. So they did it again. And because he has a pardon, because of the Brown versus Walker decision in the Supreme Court, that if you're pardoned, you don't get to really stand on the privilege of the Fifth Amendment, right? You especially don't get to use it in this way. So Anthony Fauci gets in there, he's getting grilled, and every single question, even if it was like basic little stuff, like what color is the carpet? What color is your tie? What color is your suit? What chamber are you in right now? Right? Like basic stuff like that. Josh Hawley did that as a joke. Basic stuff like that. Anthony Fauci every single time answered, he pleads the Fifth Amendment. He answered every single time. He pretty much weaponized the Fifth Amendment because he didn't admit to a single thing. The only thing he did was make an opening statement, which he was under subpoena, and he made an opening statement, which would mean that Anthony Fauci doesn't have the Fifth Amendment. So basically, him using the Fifth Amendment 111 times, mind you, him using the Fifth Amendment is a little bit outrageous, don't you think? And Rand Paul agreed. Rand Paul kicked out Anthony Fauci's lawyer, who was over there flapping his gums, blabbering and blabbering, even though he was not appointed to the stand at all. So Rand Paul had the lawyer guy escorted out of there. And then Anthony Fauci got grilled, and then they said, all right, you know what? We're going to issue you another subpoena, and we're going to have a hearing next week. So we're going to have to see next week if the Senate will vote to hold Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress, which could land him a year in jail. Now, if you ask me, I don't think a year in a jail cell is enough. I think he's done a lot worse. I think he deserves at least 5-10 years in jail, if you ask me. And I already knew about a lot of this stuff because there were documents and stuff that were already in circulation before the recent drop. Specifically in this book right here, The Real Anthony Fauci by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the Children's Health Defense. And I mean, you don't just have to take my word for it, okay? You don't even have to just take RFK's word for it, because I know a lot of these left-wing people, when they're confronted with this, with the fact that there was, COVID authoritarianism, when they're confronted with the fact of that, they usually do one of two things. They either double down or they go, but Donald Trump. Okay? That's what happens, right? And don't get me wrong. I think Donald Trump is a corrupt asshole as well. We'll get into him a little bit later. But because two things can be right at the same time. Two wrongs don't make a right. They can both be corrupt. But you don't have to just believe me. There's actual doctors who've signed on to this book. I'm going to flip to the page right here. Look right here. Look at this. And go right down the line. Dr. Lee Merritt, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Ben Carson, We got Dr. Robert Redfield. We got Dr. Deborah Birx. All these doctors, there's over 100 doctors mentioned in this book. I couldn't just sit here and go all day about it, but there's over 100 doctors within like the first 2 pages of this book that signed on to this book and said, yeah, we'll testify. Dr. Peter McCulligan here. All these great doctors. Dr. Ryan Cole, Dr. Joel Gator. All these great doctors who have done wonderful things throughout their careers, who are testifying against Anthony Fauci and saying, no, Anthony Fauci is corrupt. No, we don't agree with Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci censored our opinions. Anthony Fauci, he lied to the public. And they all testify in this here book right here. They all testify right there. It's a great read. I recommend you guys read it. But even after that book, more documents were recently released. And I'm going to show you those documents right now because we're streaming the truth today. Just give me 1 second. I got to screen share.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when under oath he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research. We also received testimony from multiple intelligence community whistleblowers who reported retaliation for challenging the intelligence community's manipulation of intelligence on the virus's origins, once again revealing a clear pattern of suppressing dissent, silencing critics, and burying the truth. Dr. Fauci's close relationships with the intelligence community enabled him to assume 3 key roles that shield him from scrutiny. First, Dr. Fauci funded dangerous gain-of-function coronavirus research linked to Big Pharma and their pursuit of universal vaccines worth trillions of dollars. Second, Dr. Fauci was the behind-the-scenes advisor who, alongside his hand-picked so-called experts, pushed the intelligence community to endorse a natural animal origin to hide his dangerous gain-of-function research that he funded using taxpayer dollars, all of this in a deliberate attempt to cover up the truth and shift the blame and attention away from Fauci's own actions. Third, Dr. Fauci became the nation's pandemic pundit, and he publicly pushed lies, disinformation, and censorship using every platform available. Now, according to hundreds of reviewed emails, which are included in this release, the intelligence community almost always incorporated Fauci's recommendations. He promoted a fraudulent paper whose publication he helped prompt as legitimate information for intelligence community consideration. Senior analysts praised Dr. Fauci not as a policymaker, but as what they called an unbiased guide to the real coronavirus experts, while deliberately ignoring experts who might dissent from Fauci's narratives. Now, Fauci didn't stop there. He blatantly lied to Congress under oath during his 2024 testimony to the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, denying that he ever spoke to any intelligence agency about COVID. Now, the correspondence I'm releasing today directly contradicts his sworn testimony. Now, we received statements from multiple whistleblowers revealing that the intelligence analysts who dared to challenge Dr. Fauci's COVID origin conclusions faced threats of retaliation, marginalization, and many suffered career setbacks. For example, a contractor was terminated just days after coming forward to ODNI as a whistleblower. Another example, those who advocated for the lab leak hypothesis or expressed dissenting views were reminded by their managers that leadership would determine which analysts would be promoted and which would not. The message was clear: go along or be punished. Senior leaders also sought to undermine whistleblowers by removing anonymity, which is required in the whistleblower process, as they made their complaints, and also insisting that their managers or attorneys be present during ODNI meetings where these whistleblowers were coming forward with their testimony, obviously creating an atmosphere of intimidation. The COVID pandemic caused tremendous hardship and pain for millions of our fellow Americans and countless people around the world. Now, after years of lies and censorship and cover-ups, the American people deserve transparency, truth, and accountability. The tactics that were used to hide the truth are straight from the deep state playbook. Politicized, self-serving leaders like Dr. Fauci covered up their own wrongdoing and abuses of power, manipulated intelligence, lied to Congress, and undermined a duly elected president by restricting his access to the vital facts he needed to keep the country safe. It's time you know the truth.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And guys, that was a huge truth nuke from Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard, who dropped that just before retiring. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard, she's retired now, unfortunately, mainly because, well, she said that her husband has gotten deathly ill, and she's going to have to take care of a lot of things personally at home. So that's the main reason. But also, they really just did not allow her to do very much inside the cabinet. She was locked inside the cabinet after in 2025 she testified against the Iran war and said that Iran posed no significant immediate threat to the United States. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Iran war later. But first, I do want to talk a little bit more about Maha, since this is technically a Maha Liberty Report that I'm doing as well in this segment. So, as far as Maha goes right now, I still support the values that I did. We worked with a lot of great people. We've talked about a lot of it. I still wish that there was more that they could do, but there's also internal sabotaging going on from the deep state, unfortunately. And also from Donald Trump himself. There's a lot of corruption that's going on. A lot of corruption that's going on that is on both sides of the political spectrum. So when we talk about this issue, I'm not really talking about it as a left versus right thing. I'm thinking it's a corruption thing. It's a general government corruption thing. This sort of thing happens all the time, ladies and gentlemen. It happens all the time. The government is very corrupt, and something needs to be done about it. Is what I'm trying to say. We need to fight. We need to stand up and fight for our rights, for our liberty. I mean, these people, even in the Trump administration, they're actively sabotaging the Maha initiatives. So they basically made RFK just like the food dyes guy. He's going to get rid of Red 40 next year. It's taken a very long time. Taken a very long time. He's going to get rid of Red 40 next year. He flipped the food pyramid, and he's kind of reformed the VAERS schedule. The whole, not VAERS, VSIP schedule. He's reformed the whole VSIP schedule to the European model, which is good. It's very good, and he's made it so there's no mandates. That's the main thing right there. And I think this is a step in the right direction, going after Anthony Fauci for his crimes, for what he did wrong. And I think we should go back after Bill Gates as well, because Bill Gates, he wasn't a scientist, he wasn't a doctor, he wasn't a farmer, he wasn't a very intelligent fellow. He's just a guy with a lot of money who stole Microsoft and Xbox out from under his roommates. He stole the patent and used his money to buy a lot of power and money. And he started lobbying all these groups and organizations. And there's actually some really good articles by the LA Times that show that a lot of these, what he calls philanthropy, this is actually just lobbying to like big pharma, that actually when it gets implemented in places like Africa, it actually does more harm than it does good, if you know what I mean. So there's that as well. But then we also just see this act of sabotaging in the administration as well. So like, it's like they do some good things and they do some bad things. They do some good things like bringing marijuana down to a Schedule 3 and approving ibogaine to be used, medically for veterans with PTSD, and that's really good. It's really good. And then you see that they went with the Supreme Court and they allow glyphosate from Monsanto and Bayer to continue to have shield immunity, which is very unfair. It's not right, Skip. And it's poisoning us. So they've allowed glyphosate to have immunity. They are continuing to spray pesticides like diaquat and paraquat all over the place, and kill our plants and kill our animals and kill our livestock, and potentially harm our children. Not very good. Not very good at all. They're trying to approve these data centers, which are going to poison our water and destroy the peace. They're going to really just destroy a lot of land. And for what? So that people can cheat on their homework and make stupid videos that aren't even that funny 90% of the time. Really doesn't make any sense. So they're going to do all this. And then on top of that, you have Donald Trump go up after this whole hearing goes over. You have him go up in front of the White House and the Oval Office, and he talks about how he respects Biden's pardon and how he doesn't want any more questions to be asked about it. It's like that Donald Trump doesn't want Anthony Fauci to be pardoned. Oh, right. That's because Donald Trump appointed Anthony Fauci in the first place. You know why he appointed Anthony Fauci in the first place? Because his hero, Ronald Reagan, actually appointed him in the first place. So it's not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's not. Because Joe Biden had Anthony Fauci too, and so did Obama. And it was corrupt the entire time. He was a corrupt guy the entire time. Under Ronald Reagan, he downplayed the AIDS pandemic, which got 60,000 LGBTQ people killed, ladies and gentlemen. And what did he do when he actually finally did decide to take some action and step in? He decided to prescribe AZT, which turns out causes vaginal tumors and prostate cancer. Then, under Barack Obama, Anthony Fauci was in Tunisia torturing dogs and like beagles, torturing them, having like sand fleas eat at their scalp and ripping out their vocal boxes, like very horrific, gruesome things, like trying to transgender lab rats and stuff too, like really weird shit, you know? So you have all that. And then it gets to Donald Trump, and then you have Operation Warp Speed be implemented, and then Joe Biden comes in, and they just get behind Anthony Fauci for like a whole 2 years. Then 2023 rolls around. The FBI releases the lab leak theory as true under the Joe Biden administration. And then in 2024, Congress dismantles Anthony Fauci. Senator Rand Paul grills him, makes him admit that he was wrong about everything. And then after that, Joe Biden gives him a pardon. Then we hear nothing about it for a year. And now we're finally getting back to it. Now that Tulsi Gabbard has released all these documents, Anthony Fauci's diary was released as well to the senators, and they were able to go through that and really pick and grill him on those issues where he would contradict himself. So you have all that going on, and hopefully next week they can finally hit him with contempt of Congress. It's not perfect. It's not everything that needs to be, but at least it's some sort of punishment for really bad crime. And at least it would go on his record, and people could stop taking Fauci seriously. Because a lot of the response from the left has just been double down on 2020 propaganda from the government and from big pharma and big corporations. Despite what all these doctors like Dr. Redfield and Dr. Robert Malone and Dr. Ryan Cole and Dr. Joel Gator and Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and Dr. Martin McCary, despite what all these doctors are telling you that this guy is a corrupt asshole, they just listen to Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates. Yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad to see. And then the other one is like, oh, but Donald Trump. I'm like, yeah, but you can go down two rabbit holes at the same time, dumbass. You don't have to pick one or the other. We spent like weeks going through the Epstein files. We spent weeks going through it. I told everybody all about the Epstein files, I think in episode 28 of the Nomadic News. So if you want to go down that, I mean, I even had U.S. Senate candidate, legendary billionaire Shelby Pikachu on the podcast who talked about the Epstein files. So we've been on the Epstein files for a really long time. Now we're on to Anthony Fauci. Now we're uncovering more of the deep state. We're finding out that both sides are fucking corrupt, and I was right about that. You understand? All right. Now let's get to some more corruption from Donald Trump. So we've already grilled the left. Now it's time to grill the right. Now we're going to go after Donald Trump about the Iran war, which, by the way, as I said earlier, Tulsi Gabbard said in front of Congress in her IC report, told us that Iran was not an immediate threat to the nation, that they didn't pose an immediate threat, and that they were not developing a nuclear weapon. And then she was censored, she was canceled, she was kind of forced out to the bottom, and then this was kind of her last hurrah to help out Robert Kennedy, to help out the Maha movement. This was her last hurrah. All that we just talked about, which is good, even though it's not necessarily her department. I don't really care. I'm glad that she actually did that. It's going to be part of her legacy, in my opinion. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. But what we've seen happen so far in the Iran war has been pretty bad. It's been pretty bad because there was a peace deal, I want to say like a month or two ago. It was about a peace. There was this peace deal that Donald Trump came to the table with. And no, it was not a very great deal because, well, the deal was basically we lose, Iran win, and, we have to just pick up our shit and go home. And everybody needs to stop fucking fighting, basically. Like, it was literally just, you know, Iran would get a lot of money from the revenue that they would get from all the ships going through the strait and them getting, a toll. And our gas prices would still stay up for at least another year. We'd still be paying tolls on gas because we're always importing so much gas, even though we have enough gas to make it at home. The problem is we just don't have the right refineries for it. So we need to make new refineries for that oil. And actually, in the meantime as well, we should be going into sustainable energy sources. We should be investing in solar. We should be investing in nuclear. We should be investing in hydroelectric. We should be investing in biodiesel. We should be investing in wind as well. We should be investing in all these, sustainable energy sources. But no, we're still stuck on crude oil and coal for whatever reason. And we got this whole ordeal. We really didn't start it. We started it. We're the ones who started it. We shot first, and we expected to get no repercussions. Turns out, Iran controls a lot of the global oil supply because they control that strait. And so, what happened? So Trump brings this peace deal, and everybody kind of agrees to it, except for one country. The little tiny hat country. Israel. 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 It's always fucking Bibi Netanyahu and Israel that always fucks everything up. Because part of that peace deal was that Israel was supposed to stop bombing Lebanon and occupying their land. It was supposed to go home. What does Bibi Netanyahu do? He completely ignores it, continues to bomb, continues to occupy, and what happens? Iran gets upset and decides to attack oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. And what happens then? The United States decides to go and say, okay, fuck the peace deal. We're going to go ahead and just start the war all over again. So now we're back in the same spot that we were a few months ago. And I kind of predicted that this type of shit would happen because, let's be honest, nothing ever happens. And it's never ever going to be a nice thing when all you have is these giant egomaniacs who don't know how to control their temper. They're like a bunch of giant babies who are crying about everything. We have these egomaniacs controlling the world, and they think they can just do whatever they want because they don't have any principles. All they do is care about what's going to make them rich and what's going to make them more powerful and what's going to make them to stay at the top. That's all they care about. They're just all for their own interests, their own self-entitled interests. And they don't care about the little guy. They don't care that I have to pay fucking $5.90 at the fucking gas pump. They don't care that all the food is super expensive and it's like $10 for a freaking basic meal for one person. They don't care about that. All they care about is what their own self-interest is. And so that's what's got us into this trouble in the first place. You got these self-entitled assholes, these politicians who don't know anything about shit, and they think they can just run the world. And so, yeah, of course this war is still fucking going on, and it doesn't need to continue to go on. You guys could stop it whenever you want, because all you have to do is hold one guy accountable. Bibi Netanyahu. All you have to do is hold this asshole accountable, this war criminal, because that's what he is. He's a corrupt war criminal. talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes. But yeah, this war criminal, just hold him accountable and figure out a solution in the Middle East, and all the problems go away. But no, that's too hard. No. Instead, Donald Trump takes money from AIPAC, like $250 million from them. Instead, he takes money from AIPAC and Miriam Adelson, and he decides to just keep the wars going. We should have knew that something was up once they decided to try to name the Department of Defense the Department of War. Because all it's been, the so-called peace president, all it's been this whole time has just been war, warmongering. Even though all he literally ran on not going to war. And even his own vice president disagrees with him on this Iran conflict. Like, his vice president sees the writing on the wall. J.D. Vance, he's not very like highly intelligent about it. He's not like smart like Joe Kent or Tulsi Gabbard or Colonel Douglas McGregor, but at least he has some common sense. Like, at least every once in a while he's like, maybe going to Iran war, not good idea. Maybe not so good idea. At least he's like, the gears are starting to turn, but they're really rusty. They need some WD-40 on them. But no, then you got this little dimwit, Marco Rubio, the fat beard Wozniak, fucking weirdo. You got this guy, Marco Rubio, little guy, little Marco, as Donald Trump calls him, and J.D. Vance with the fat beard Wozniak. You got these guys that are just like really like the worst advisors you could have, in my opinion. And you've ignored the best advisors that you have. You ignored Tulsi Gabbard. You ignored Joe Kent, the guys with the actual military experience, the guys that know what they're talking about. You've listened to Pete Hegseth, J.D. Vance, and Marco Rubio, and Bibi Netanyahu. So, yeah, it's a betrayal. It's a complete betrayal of everything that the MAGA movement was supposed to be about. So I'm not MAGA. I am Maha, but even then, like, I'm kind of like ashamed, because it's like all that stuff, all the betrayals of Maha as well have really hurt the movement. It's very, very bad to see. And the thing is Netanyahu has been really a thorn in America's side for a really long time. And this war should have ended a really long time ago. And by this war, I don't mean just the Iran war, because the Iran war could have been prevented. And so could the fight in Lebanon as well. And all you had to do was stop the war in Gaza in the first place, because we don't need to continue to fight there. They're still fighting there to this day. Like, they're not even fighting. They're just blowing shit up at this point. Because Israel at this point controls 70% of the Gaza Strip. Israel is building a giant 14-mile-long wall through the Gaza Strip and is continuing to occupy and dismantle and destroy everything. Because that's what they are. They are doing an imperialistic, land-grabbing policy that is causing tremendous amounts of death and suffering. That's why you see all these videos online of all the little kids getting shot, and the women, the children. You see them all getting shot up and blown up, and you see them like getting blown up and buried under buildings. You see them shooting and blowing up first responders. You see them blowing up buildings and shooting at journalists. And you see all this shit going on because this policy is just awful. Because the Israelis literally call these people the Amalekites. If you go back to the Old Testament, who are the Amalekites? The Amalekites are the people who Jehovah calls to go ahead and destroy all their people, destroy their children, destroy their women, destroy their men, destroy their crops. He just says wipe them all off the face of the planet, basically. It's a very wrathful passage in the Old Testament, and it's very sickening to your stomach to see why they would do such a thing. Like, what kind of God would do something like that? I don't understand it. If God is supposed to be this all loving, creating powerful deity, how is it that he demands that entire civilizations be killed and murdered and destroyed and brutally burnt to the ground, right? Like, why is he picking sides in wars? Why does he have a chosen people in the first place? I don't think God has a chosen people. In fact, I think what we need to do is figure out a way to get peace. And, part of that is going to be we need to hold Netanyahu to justice. I think the United Nations peacekeepers should get sent to Israel, and they should arrest Netanyahu. And while you're at it, arrest Ben Gvir and arrest Smoltrich as well, because those two guys are also war criminals, and they're also accomplices to these war crimes that are going on over there. They've killed like over 100,000 people at least. It's probably closer to like 130 to 150,000, and we actually don't know the real numbers because there's so many people that are buried under the rubble. Just buried under the rubble of all the buildings that there's almost nothing left there. There's almost nothing left. And they've destroyed Christian communities. They've destroyed Orthodox Christian churches. They destroyed the third oldest Orthodox Christian church in the Middle East. And why? Just to prove a point? Because here's the thing. The Hamas doesn't exist anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Like, all of their leaders have pretty much been killed, and the Hamas has dissolved its organization, and now they just have like the one person they have left is just the UN representative for that region. So it's all just Hamas is dissolved, and there's just one representative for the UN that they call Hamas, but he's just a guy in a suit and a tie who's not. He doesn't really have much political power, ladies and gentlemen. He doesn't. Hamas has been destroyed, and I showed you guys that on Ground News on my posts. If you guys check that one out, Hamas has been destroyed. Hamas is effectively done. The hostages have been returned. All the hostages have been returned. So the war does not need to continue to go on. So what's the direction forward? What is the direction forward? Because here's my proposal. My proposal is that we need a peaceful two-state solution with the emphasis on human rights. We don't need Trump Gaza. We don't need the Greater Israel Project. What we need is there's a plan called the Oasis Plan or the LaRouche Plan. And that's that we got to green the deserts. We need a two-state solution that's going to involve Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, and also the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. We need these states to come together and start to work towards a better solution for the future. Green the deserts, start having genuine peace. In fact, if anybody needs the monks, those, you guys remember the monks that went and marched for peace across the United States. If anyone needs the monks next, it's the people in Palestine and the people in Israel. They need to hear a message about peace, love, kindness, and compassion, because they have been at war for so long that they don't know what the fuck they are doing. And it's not like it's impossible. It's not like it's impossible for these two people to have peace, because they've had peace before. I'm pulling out another book here. One sec. These people have had peace before. It was a long time ago. Underneath the Ottoman Empire. I'm going to show you something very, very interesting here. This is inside of my personal Bible. This is the Jefferson Bible, the Bible of Thomas Jefferson. So this is back in the 1700s. And if you guys don't know, Thomas Jefferson was a map maker, ladies and gentlemen. Thomas Jefferson was a surveyor. He made maps. He was obsessed with geography and creating maps. And this is what he created here to forward in his Bible. He drew out these maps himself. And this is a highly detailed map of the Levant and the Middle East and the Mediterranean Sea. Like, as you can see, there are so many places here. Like, you can look through here. This is of Israel, Gaza. Over here, on this side, you can see there's all these places that existed long time ago. You can see, there's Judea. You can see Gaza. You can see Jerusalem. You can see Bethlehem. You can see Galilee. You can see all these places that we know today. They always have existed. They've always been there. And under the Ottoman Empire, ladies and gentlemen, under the Ottoman Empire, I have to take very special care of that book, so I apologize, my head probably got cut out. But under the Ottoman Empire, ladies and gentlemen, these people lived in a state of relative peace. They kind of lived in basically like communities. And like they would celebrate holidays together. Christians, Jews, Muslims, they were all family to each other, all united under their Abrahamic faith in the region. And what happened? Suddenly, the imperialists, the Zionists, the British, they started coming in, and they started dividing up lands. They started drawing lines and saying, well, these people deserve reparations because they're the chosen people. Once you start calling people the chosen people, then people start to get jealous, and also the chosen people, the quote-unquote chosen people, the Jewish people, for lack of a better term, even though not all Jewish people believe they are the chosen people. I've met great Jewish people. I have Jewish friends. But let's talk about this. When you tell people from childhood to adulthood that religiously they are the chosen people, that they are God's chosen people, when you tell people that, they get an ego trip. That power goes to their head, and they think of other people as goyim, which means cattle. That's how a lot of these, that's unfortunately how a lot of these people are freaking acting. That is how they're acting. They're acting like assholes. These rabbinic, Kabbalah worshipping Jewish people in Israel, that's how they act. They're like almost demonic. It's very scary. It's like a spiritual warfare, So it's like very opposite to what I believe, because I believe in like Zen. I believe in like Taoism and stuff like that. So it's very peaceful, loving kindness. Everybody has the key to the divine. That's how I am, right? And for them, it's like, no, God is like a very wrathful guy, and he doesn't like you because you're different, and he's going to destroy you because we're the chosen people and we're the bestest in the world, right? Like that's how the Old Testament and the Talmud and all that bullshit, that's how it all acts. And that's why the Abrahamic faiths, they have a problem. They have a serious fucking problem with this whole idea of like God being this angry, wrathful guy in the sky who chooses sides in wars and picks battles. There's a problem with that, ladies and gentlemen. There's a problem. And I hope that I'm addressing that right here. I'm trying my best to address that. It's a very hard-hitting topic. Don't get me wrong, hard-hitting topic. But it's true. It's true. And there's a spiritual warfare that's going on right now But the spiritual warfare is not like what the Christians think is spiritual warfare, where it's everybody against, evangelical Christians. It's not like that. No, the spiritual warfare is between people who are honestly holding their faith and using it for peace, regardless of whether you're Buddhist, whether you're pagan, whether you're Catholic, whether you're a fucking Rastafarian or whatever. People who genuinely hold their religious beliefs and use it to advocate for peace and goodwill on earth and kindness towards others, and the people who use their faith for hate, like those evangelical Christians who are harassing the monks and yelling at them and swearing at them and picking on them and holding their signs that say God hates gay people and God hates, God hates other religions and Muslims and all that stuff. Like, then there's that. And also you have these Zionist Jews, these Kabbalah worshipping Jews who are doing all sorts of unspeakable evil that you can even see in the Epstein files, and you can see in Israel, Gaza right now. And it's just very obvious. I'm literally telling you, this is obvious. You can look all of this up, and yet nobody wants to believe me. And it's crazy. I feel like I'm a crazy person sometimes, but I know I'm very sane. I'm very sane. I'm very well articulated. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to have a great stream here. And yeah, it makes sense. So yeah. Anyways, I'm done kind of yelling and ranting. I'm going to go answer a few comments, because guess what? Our friend Rexus Prime just jumped in the chat. He says, boom, what's up? I just noticed that the chat over there. Yeah, changed my tag to see if the shadow ban will be lifted. I tried to tag you, Rexus Nexus. That's his new tag, but it didn't work. So I don't know if that's I don't know if that's something. It might be the dash you use. I don't know what's going on, or it could just be like you said, like a shadow ban or something. Also, yes, I'm watching late. Sorry, I was watching Scurvy Rum. All right, that's fine. Yep, you see it with me and my Orthodox friends, but the dispensationalists can't understand it. No, they can't. They can't wrap their head around it because they've been lied to by the church and by Mark Levin on Fox News and by Lindsey Graham, who rotten piss, by the way, Lindsey Graham. They've been lied to by Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin on Fox News and fucking, these ultra Protestant dispensationalist preachers like Kenneth Copeland, who robbed them of their money instead of giving back to the community. They've been lied to. And you were in a Bible study with dispensationalists and you wanted to scream. Yeah, same thing. Like, it's awful. It's awful because these people are they're not highly intelligent. They're very dumb and they're very easily tricked. They're not very smart. They don't understand what's going on in the world around them. That's very scary because they're literally contributing. They're literally contributing to horrific things going on in the world, and they don't even know. For them, it's just a lack of education. They just don't understand. They're very narrow-minded, very small-minded people, and you have to break things down baby style to them because it's things that they don't understand. You need to break these things baby style, but they will like lash out. They will lash out. I've experienced this with people that I know, people who I'm close with. These dispensationalist evangelicals, they go absolutely nuts. If you dare talk about Israel one time, if you say one thing critical about Israel, and it's just crazy. It's crazy, Skip. It's crazy. It's insane. And yeah, it's really bad. But the good news is that we got one thing coming up too, and that's in October. Benjamin Netanyahu has his election coming up, and if he gets voted out of office, it's very likely that he will face his corruption trials, and that he will go to prison, which I think would be a net good for the populace. So, and the thing is too is like Netanyahu is becoming very much more unpopular even in Israel. None of my Jewish friends like Netanyahu. I know Yemenite Jewish friends. I got one Jewish friend who's like a Reform Jewish friend who worked with us on the RFK Jr. campaign. I have another Jewish friend who served in the military for like 20 years and fought in, he was a journalist in Afghanistan and Iraq, and he told me all about the corruption of the military industrial complex and like how we need to stop being in the Middle East and stuff like. And you as well, you're an ethnically Jewish person, so like you know a lot about this stuff. Like I have Jewish friends. It's not like I'm like this anti-Semite that Dexter Midnight wants to paint me out to be. No, I'm just a normal guy who has seen things that probably I shouldn't have seen, that have probably scarred me for life. I've seen some things that are really fucked up that have happened in Israel and Gaza, and I want it to stop. I'm just a guy who wants it to fucking stop. Is that too much to ask? Is that too much to ask? It's been 3 fucking years. I don't think it's too much to ask. Dispensationalists don't even worship Christ. They worship the Epstein and they venerate a false version of Christ, especially when they compare them to the Catholics and Orthodox. Yeah, I actually think what they actually worship is this creature called the demiurge. Now, if you study Gnosticism, there's a creature called the demiurge, which is like the false god, right? The demiurge is the false god. The demiurge is the god that is very destructive. Is very destructive and violent and wrathful and arrogant and he's very judgmental. He's also very he's basically the god of the Old Testament, right? He's jealous. He's all these terrible traits. The demiurge is all these terrible traits, and they try to say that Jesus is the same guy as that demiurge, and I just don't believe it. No, I do not believe for a second that the same guy who preached the Beatitudes and who flipped tables because the Pharisees ticked him off so much with their usury. I don't believe that's the same guy as this angry old man in the clouds throwing lightning bolts at people that is depicted in the Old Testament. Epstein cloud. They worship the Epstein cloud. It's true. It's true. Like you got like Kenneth Copeland, for example, who's literally said on record, like he said, "I'm a rich Jew who's funded by an even richer Jew." Like he didn't even say he's a Christian. He's literally said that he's a Jew. And then we'll do one more comment from you over here. Dexter doesn't even understand what true hatred is. No, he doesn't. No, he does not. Because remember, I tried to be nice to him. I tried to just ask him to have a civil discussion with me about this issue, and he refused to do it. And so what are you supposed to do about that? There's not really much you can do about that. So the whole internet actually, guys, has been trolling Dexter Midnight now. Like there's like, if you check out his channel, you can see that everybody's just trolling Dexter Midnight at this point. It's really funny. Like everybody's destroying him and just like grilling him and really just tearing him a new asshole, basically. They're completely destroying him. And it's hilarious to watch. You love to see it, folks. It might be the end of the Dexter Midnight YouTube channel. And here's Rex's Prime. Another comment. I know what true hatred is. I went down the rabbit hole and came out far hateful of those I'm ethnically related to. There's no hatred like hating your own. Yeah. I mean, I think maybe you did go kind of a little bit far, but I do see like why. I understand where you're coming from. I see why there is a very much an animosity towards Jewish people. But we got to understand that is not all Jewish people. Again, like I have good friends who are Jewish who are on the same page as us. We got friends like those Hasidic Jews over in New York, you know, those ultra orthodox guys with the Palestinian flags and stuff, protesting and stuff. They've been doing that for decades, actually. Good, like kudos to them. They're on the right side of history, and all these evangelical Zionists get mad at them and say, "Oh, you're not a real Jew. You're not a real Jew." What the fuck are you talking about? These guys are like fucking Middle Eastern dudes with the whole Jewish hats and the whole get up and everything. Like they're from Israel, and they're real dudes, and they're telling you, no, we're not supposed to be at war with these people. We're supposed to, follow love thy neighbor, you know? But the evangelicals, they can't wrap their head around it. They can't wrap their head around it. And so I don't want to say I give up on it, but I do kind of give up on it. Like there's times where I just get so frustrated. Like I could sit here and rant all day about this shit, and I just know it doesn't change anybody's mind. So like I'm just kind of preaching to the choir here at this point. So I hope it's a good live stream though. I don't know. Bobby Fischer was a good man. Yeah, Bobby Fischer, one of my favorite chess players. Bobby Fischer was a good man. They kicked him out for speaking out. Yep. No, Albert Einstein was a good man too. Albert Einstein was not a Zionist. He actually refused to. He was offered to be the president or prime minister of Israel, and he refused to do so. Yeah, fun fact, historical fact, that Albert Einstein, one of the smartest people in history. I was going to say smartest Jews, but actually smartest person, like one of the smartest guys in history. Um, Albert Einstein literally was not a Zionist, and he was opposed to this whole. He was opposed to the whole idea of a greater Israel project where Israel will have complete hegemony and take over the Middle East, the whole Pax Judaica, if you will. It's true. It's a fact. You can look it up. He wasn't a fan of it, and that's why he didn't want to be the president of Israel. Yeah, like real fun facts right there. Yeah, we got a lot of fun facts on this stream. We talk about a lot of history. We talk about a lot of philosophy. We talk about a lot of politics. We talk about science. We talk about all sorts of cool shit on this channel. So, guys, I'm going to have to wrap this up. My voice is getting hoarse, and I'm getting tired, and I'm getting kind of sore. So I'm about to head out of here, but I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. You've got an hour and 20 minutes of content to go listen to right here, right now on the Nomadic Cole YouTube channel. So again, if you haven't already, if you're new, I noticed there's 2 viewers now watching. Be sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment, share, and of course subscribe for more epic, awesome, cool, funny, and interesting content just like this one right here, right now on the Nomadic Cole YouTube channel. We got one last comment, Rexus. Make it count. And there are 2 types of hatred. One founded in wanted to protect what you love, and the unreasonable hatred. Dexter's unreasonable. Yep, very true, Rexus Prime, very true. Rexus is completely unreasonable, and he's getting completely destroyed by the people of the internet. Alrighty, Rexus Prime, you have a good night too, man. I'm getting out of here. This has been the Nomadic Cole on the Nomadic Cole YouTube channel, and we are finally signing off. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great day. Goodbye.